Yes, Steve, we are back, and we can assure you that your forecast that downtown Hartford was going to get hit really hard was 100% on the nose. We apologize for the interruption. Governor, let's get back to the question for you from WTNH.com. This is from Jim in North Branford. How can you offer no layoffs and raises in the third and fourth years of the offer when you don't even know what the economy will be like even next year? Sounds like the unions win again.
No, I don't think that that's the case. First of all, these were negotiations, and I inherited a 20-year contract that a prior governor had entered into.
Governor Rowland, that doesn't expire until 2017. Right. So you have to be offering something to get the kind of relief that we're looking for. And what I think people throughout Connecticut don't necessarily understand is this is a restructuring of our relationship with our my fellow state employees. It will have long-term savings of about $21.5 billion. It requires an agreement, and I had to negotiate to get that agreement, and it took us 60 days to get it, to the point of, well, the unions won again. I remind you, they voted it down. And here we're back. So I think it's a tough decision for everyone to make. But I'm going to push back. We know we're making estimates on how many retirees we'll have and what our cost will be associated with that and how many fewer employees we'll have. We're working on plans to make sure that we don't replace every retiree, that we're very careful about how we rebuild Connecticut's government, so it's far more efficient than it's ever been. This is all part of a plan. But the first step is this vote, or we lay people off. Not the road I would prefer to go, because I believe we can create the kinds of efficiencies over a long period of time that we need to create and change our relationship with our employees. Okay, next question. Is that right? Ready for another question? All right, this is from Brian in Milford. He wants to know, with all the tax increases and state worker layoffs, why are we giving Cigna millions of dollars to relocate to Bloomfield where they already have a big presence? And why do you feel we need to purchase more new rail cars? Shouldn't we stop this huge spending until the state gets back on its feet financially?
Well, we've lost jobs in Connecticut for 22 years. 22 years. Only 3 states are in that category of having lost jobs over the entirety of 22 years. If you drop 2 years off and you just do it on a 20-year basis, only 2 states are in that category. The other state would be Michigan, and they have a higher percentage of the jobs that they had 20 years ago than we do. We've got to get back in this game. And I have said that I firmly believe that the insurance industry can be a growth industry in Connecticut again. And as a marker, we're bringing Cigna's headquarters back to Connecticut.
Right, but if I can follow up on the guy, $50 million for 200 jobs doesn't seem like a good investment.
It's the potential of 800 jobs, and it's the preservation of 5,000 jobs. 4,000 direct Cigna employees plus 1,000 contract employees. So let me put it this way. For 5,800 jobs, it's a pretty good deal. But more importantly than that, every insurance company in the country is now sitting up and saying, you know what, Connecticut is taking insurance seriously again for the first time in 22 years. I intend to grow that industry in this state and bring it back to the prominence that it once was in our state government. I'll give you a story. In the last 5 years, over 1,000 captive insurance companies, these are specialized insurance companies, have been filed in the state of Vermont. Not a single one in Connecticut. And no one asked the question why. And no one was asking, well, why is Vermont getting all of those jobs and Connecticut getting none? So we have to change that relationship very dramatically. Otherwise, we'll have the same debate that we've had for the last 20 years. What services to cut and how much to raise taxes. And I don't want to have that conversation anymore.
And defend the additional rail cars you bought on Friday?
Yeah, those probably make more sense than some of the earlier orders placed previously. These are single cars, and they don't have engines. They are designed to be added to a train. So I'll put it this way. They're just coaches. But right now, every other car that we have is 2 cars. So if you have a train that needs an extra 30 seats, you have to add 120 seats. This gives us the capacity of adding a single car and allowing that railroad to work much more efficiently.
All right, I think we're going to take a break now, and we'll have more of your questions for Governor Dan Malloy on Ask the Governor here on News 8. Stay with us. Okay, more of your questions from WTNH.com for Ask the Governor. This is from a concerned resident of Glastonbury. While campaigning, you were quoted as saying you refused to put a price on public safety. 2 of Connecticut's major cities regularly make the top 10 list of this nation's most dangerous cities. Yet you insist on releasing prisoners and laying off public safety personnel, such as our state troopers. Why didn't you keep your word?
Well, we are keeping our word. Many of our cities are safer than they once were. You know, as mayor of the city of Stamford, I oversaw a decline in crime of in excess of 60%. But I also want to go to another part of the question. We haven't released anyone as a result from jails as a result of a financial situation. That's simply not the truth, and it's one of these tales that keeps getting told.
Well, because of the new law that was passed in the session.
But we haven't done that. There's no one been released as a result of...
But what about the 57 new troopers?
You know what? Well, I made it clear. We needed to get a concession package with our fellow employees, or we had to reduce the size of government. And I also made it very clear, and this I said publicly, that there were no sacred cows. If we had to reduce our ranks, we were going to reduce them across the board, including the governor's office.
Okay. Next question. This is from Angel and Hell in Waterbury. Should there be a law that whoever is receiving state assistance of any kind be tested for alcohol and drug abuse? This way the state will help those who are in need and not the habits of those who abuse the system.
You know, I've seen this debate take place. There is a reality that there are many people who suffer from mental illness. And if we can find some way to separate mental illness and what that drives people to do and find ways to help them, I'd be interested in having that conversation. We don't have that way right now. And so simply saying to a community, it's your problem now, I'll go back to the question you just asked right before. What happens to our cities if we don't have some level of support for the sickest among us? And so I'm always looking for ideas how to perfect that system, how to make it stronger, quite frankly, how to save money, but also to get people better. And I'm happy to work with anyone, including on how, any way we can.
I think we have time for one more question, and we'll have that coming up on Ask the Governor. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. One more question for Governor Dan Malloy. This is from April in New Haven. We as a community would like to know why our paychecks are being retroactively taxed back to January 2011 if the increase did not happen until May of 2011.
Well, there's a couple of things and it's complicated. But first of all, we pay taxes on a calendar year. State budgets are made on a July 1 starting date. So they're never in sync. And these kinds of income taxes are always retroactive in that sense.
If they go up.
If they go up. Yeah. Or if they go down. Or if they go down. But let me drill a little bit further. I don't know how much money the person who sent the question is. She makes $50,000 or less, she's not going to see any change. If she has a spouse and their combined income is $100,000 or less, she's not going to see any change. Right. And I think there's this kind of a fear that everyone's going to see a lot of money coming out of their checks. That's simply not happening in the state of Connecticut. What we did is we created some more brackets. We did ask the wealthiest among us to pay more money. And I thought that was fair, given the fact that we had a $3.5 billion deficit. The largest per capita deficit in the entire United States was here in Connecticut, and that's what I was asked to deal with. So this was across the board. We cut spending. We asked our employees for concessions, and yes, we had to raise revenue. But now let's drill down one step further. For most of the first part of this show, you asked me questions about why are you cutting this, or this, or this. That's based on $700 million in additional cuts. Imagine if we had had to make $2 billion in additional cuts, how many more questions you would have had about that. I'm doing the best I can. I think our state's going to start creating jobs again in the not-too-distant future. This is the best way to do it.
We'll do it again soon. Governor Malloy, thanks for joining us. And thank you very much for your questions for Ask the Governor. Now, let's check in with Keith and Sonia for News 8 at 6.